Disclaimer. The content presented in this show is intended for entertainment purposes only. All opinions expressed are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of any individuals or organizations mentioned. Statements made about public figures or entities are based on publicly available information and are not intended to harm or defame any person or business. This show relies on fair use of social media posts, which are presented in good faith for the purpose of commentary and criticism. Viewers and listeners are advised to form their own opinions. It's that time of year. We have the worst betting trends you can follow for Super Bowl Sunday. We're also talking about betting on the coin toss in 2026. People still doing that. We're also going to talk about Bill Belichek getting snubbed from the Pro Football Hall of Fame and so much more right here on Circle Back, right here on the Circles Off channel, which is part of the Hammer Betting Network and presented by Kalshi. This is the show where we cover the latest and greatest news that comes from gambling Twitter and sometimes a little bit of Twitter as a whole. We're doing it here with this Friday crew. I'm your host here on Circle Back. My name is Jacob Gramegna. I'm a creator and producer for the Hammer Betting Network. Down in the bottom left, we have Mike, a.k.a. Mr. PeanutBettor on Twitter. Kalshi donator in the bio, but he is a professional sports bettor. Down in the bottom right corner of the screen, we have Joey Knish, co-host on the Hit the Books channel, which is the Hammer's NCAA football, college football content division. And up in the top right corner of the screen, we have China at Chinamaniac, pro sports bettor and host of the Gambling Chronicles podcast, and New England Patriots fan. China, how you doing? You just told us pre-show you're going to the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, excited. First Super Bowl. I've missed the last 10, and we've been shut out for a while here. So, I better get in before the time goes past me,
Absolutely. And I'm sure the tickets ran you quite a bit, but you only have so many chances as a New England Patriots fan, let alone Boston sports in general. You only have so many chances to get to a big game like this. So I guess
right.
You got to take them when you have the opportunity to do so.
That's right. Once in a lifetime.
Glad you're going to be able to experience that before maybe you don't have any more chances to do so. But we're going to get into the show today. We're going to start off with the betting trends that you see on the Super Bowl on a year-to-year basis. Things like this. We have Jay Kuda who posted this one about Drake May. No starting quarterback with a last name less than 5 letters long has won a Super Bowl. Starting QBs whose first and last name end with the same letter are 0-6 in Super Bowls since the AFC was formed in 1970. Of course, Drake May applies to that as well. And starting quarterbacks with the initials DM are 0-2 in the Super Bowl because Dan Marino and Donovan McNabb both lost. Now, as funny as this is, I will give Jay some credit. He said that these are meaningless, but not before somebody had to ask about Nick Foles. Nick Foles won a Super Bowl, even though Nick Foles' name is 5 letters long, which therefore doesn't fit the first criteria. But again, he did say, luckily, these are meaningless stats anyway, so it doesn't matter. But how about ones like this? Sal Betts, the king of betting trends. When we talk about GOATs in this space, we throw it out a lot. But when it comes to betting trends and nonsense associated with it, I think Sal Betts really does fit that profile. He says, I don't know if you know this, but over $20 billion will be wagered on the Super Bowl this year, but most people are focused on the wrong plays. Here are 10 picks you need to know for the Super Bowl. He proceeds to list 10 plays like this. He gives out a bet with no odds and provides a very basic assessment of the bet that everyone is aware of and is already factored into the price, such as Hunter Henry over 0.5 touchdown. He's been the Patriots' most reliable red zone option. His 22 red zone targets lead the team and rank 5th among all players. Now he faces the Seahawks, who allow 5th most catches to tight ends this season. Again, stuff everyone has access to, and no price associated with the bet. Minus 1,000, probably wouldn't take that on Hunter Henry over 0.5 touchdowns. Then we have people like this. Jeremy exposes Vegas, which I don't even really understand what this is trying to say. So Miami, Rams, Broncos, Pacers, 49ers, Texans. The underdog well dries up. Confidence has to be drained before the real trap is set. The Patriots sit as Super Bowl underdogs and showcase the line for the Super Bowl. I guess this is motivation to pick the Seahawks, but I really don't quite understand it. And finally, Rob mentioned basically how these Super Bowl trends can be meaningless on a year-to-year basis, but BTT Sports says 99% of these are not worth considering. But the Super Bowl is not an average game, not engagement farming. Team to score last wins game hit 20 years in a row before finally losing last year. At my numbers for it, this was about a 1 in 5,000 outcome. Variance, or is there something to it? Let's go to you, China, first. How do we feel about these Super Bowl trends on a year-to-year basis? What's your take on what we saw here?
Yeah, this is just, I mean, all these trends, it's just a bunch of trash. I mean, the only trends that are really important when it comes to Super Bowl trends is what has happened in the current season. The best trends are the past performance trends that have happened recently, where you can kind of take a piece of a puzzle, put it together, and figure out what is right and what is wrong. And like, even when you do that, you still have to find out which one of these is going to hold value and which ones do not. So, you just got to figure out what has happened, how often it's happened. Stay away from the over trends, stay away from the yes trends, bet the no's, bet the unders, and you can't do worse than break even on this game.
Understood. Let's go to Mike. You really like this one here. These team to score last wins hit 20 years in a row. This tweet. Anything you want to elaborate on?
So he puts it at 1 in, is it 5,000 there? Outcome probability of this. This is a phenomenon known as it's a small world problem. So when you run into someone from, say you go down to Mexico, have a vacation, you run into someone from your hometown, and you go, what are the odds that I ran into this person? Well, the odds that you ran into someone from your hometown are relatively small. But it's not just the odds of someone you ran in from your hometown. It's someone you went to college with. It's someone that's your wife's friend. It's someone there's actually, the probability that you're looking at is maybe it's 1 in 5,000 that this prop hit specifically during the last 20 Super Bowls. But it's what's the probability that one of these random props hits in the 20 Super Bowls before is actually quite high, especially when you start to make it so that it's any different number of years. You can kind of make it. There's basically infinite number of combinations of possibilities that you can use as far as props. So that's why these misleading, the probability of this occurring is only 1 in 5,000. It's similar to when you see, the one day of the year that is John F. Kennedy's birthday and Abraham Lincoln signed somebody into office and all these things. It's actually, they're presenting it as the probability is so low of this outcome happening, but there's actually a vast number of outcomes that you could put in there. So that's the confusing part. When you're thinking about any of these trends, there is something to the Super Bowl behaving differently than other games in the sense that the halftime's longer, things are a little bit different. The nerves factor isn't, I would say, would kind of dismiss that some, but there are instances where you see, late in games, like a golfer who's up late in a match is more likely to miss a putt. So those things are real, but you have to start and think, why would this exist in this game that it doesn't in others? And if you're going to have that effect, you need to price it in appropriately. Think, what is the probability that this is different than another game? Both look at historical data, see how it's behaved differently. And most importantly, you need to have a reason of why you think, okay, something in the Super Bowl is making this different. There was the second half Super Bowl is, I think it's lower scoring or higher scoring because of the longer halftime. There was that theory. That could be true. But it also, there's a decent chance it's noise and you're just filtering through a million things. So as always, it's complicated. It's not entirely clear how much of this in these small data problems is, being priced in, how much of it you have found something unique. In general, I would say treat it like a normal game. Maybe look for a couple things around the edges and bet things that it's already, you think maybe it could have extra value to it, but there was value there already.
Over to you, Knish. How has this sort of phenomenon developed over the years, and any thoughts from you on these betting trends?
I mean, this reminds me of the old, what used to be week 17 or week 18 now, where now 3 weeks in advance, people are like, here's the incentives that people are about. And, old Sal was on those before things. So now he's, pivoting to Super Bowl, not pivoting. He's probably been doing this forever, but maybe just doesn't get as much run. Where now we're going to do Super Bowl trends. And for whatever reason, this is I don't know, the betting percentages crack of like Super Bowl trend. This stuff he's like built a empire off this of just, we're going to do here, you list 10 trends in a thread and, you get 1,000 sheep that are like, oh, Sal, you're the greatest. Never would have thought of that. Yeah, well, I would say the vast majority worthless, but if people keep clicking it, you're gonna keep seeing it. And sales good for that.
We've really hit this new era of Twitter where like just engagement farming is being rewarded more than it's ever been, and we've seen like a new Twitter algorithm has come out, and this sort of tweet is exactly what is going to help people like Sal Bets grow even further with that. But it's just such like misinformation to put out these numbers that sometimes these numbers aren't even available. There's no price attached to it. So like, okay, like sure, I'll play it, but like up to what number? It's just doing a large disservice, I think, to the community posting stuff like that. So yes, some of this stuff can matter, but a lot of the time these sorts of trends don't matter. And I didn't really feature any examples, but like people will go off betting trends of like the last 20 Super Bowls. What the hell does a game, even like last year, what does a game between two teams who aren't even involved in this game have to do with what's going on here? Like for the most part, relatively nothing. Sure, there's going to be stuff like, okay, the halftime is longer and that matters, but if it's like, you can't look at a Chiefs-Eagles game and take that as information that will benefit you for a game between the Seahawks and the Patriots. I mean, even a Chiefs-Eagles game from a few years ago, there may not even be a ton of information you get from that to a Chiefs-Eagles game this year. So largely, these trends can be ignored. Go ahead, Mike.
I think it's interesting, though. Sometimes they do behave like, okay, good example is the over 2.5 passes, under 2.5 passes prop. That is hit at a very high rate in the Super Bowl compared to a normal game. Is there a chance that in the Super Bowl, you're more likely as a coach to play a different kind of, trick play that you think, hey, I have this play, I'm going to save it until we need it to end of the season, you're more likely to use it? I do think that there's a chance some of this, could behave differently. The thing is one, if it exists, people are probably going to overreact to it, especially if it's small sample. And two, you really have to actually look at the thing that's happening and see, like, is there a possible reason why this could be different? So like a pass, like I said, for the passes, it could be different. It could not be. When it's talking about like the favorite is covered, obviously that's a regular game. That's insane.
But even on that, to go back like let's say we're going the last 20 years, the amount of times over 2.5 passers. So one person beyond just a quarterback needs to attempt to pass in a game for that to hit. Even without like using past Super Bowl data, we can just simply say this is a game where the coaches are going to go deeper into their bag on offense, and that makes it more likely. That doesn't necessarily mean that we can use the trends from the past 20 years to supplement that sort of theory, right?
Yeah, correct. I mean, you just can't use the trends to supplement it. But in the case of the Super Bowl, the sample size is so small, you could argue that, hey, like it provides back. It's similar to the Army-Navy thing is another classic example of how real is it, how is it not?
Right. So
I do think there's some, but it's almost always used poorly, and you're better off just staying away for the most part.
I feel like a lot of conversations we have is like, there's some specific examples where maybe it's correct, but for the most part, it's better just to ignore it completely unless you really know exactly what you're going to be looking for. China, you have something to add?
Yeah, I feel like with that one, it's a lot more recency bias. I've run the data on that, and just in the Super Bowl in general, I think that's gone under like 65% of Super Bowls, the under 2.5 passes.
Well, let me tell you, it didn't go under in last year's Super Bowl because you know who bet it? This guy right here. So
yeah, and it was only because the backup came in, right?
Yeah, it wasn't even the trick play or anything. It was
right. I would agree, though. It's more likely that somebody might be holding something in their bag that they're desperate. They have to pull something out. But historically, I mean, I know it's hit the last 3, maybe 4 years, but historically, I'm pretty sure it runs higher than it would in the regular season, but it still goes under a lot more than it goes over.
Right. And that's why it's good to put a number on it, is because you can look at it and say, okay, maybe there is a 10% more likely chance that a second person throws a football, but there's certainly not a 50% chance. So that's why it's helpful to kind of create those numbers and then look at the market.
People just really love bets that can turn in an instant, so that you're always on the cusp of potentially winning that bet. And people like bets that settle very simply and very quickly, which is why we've seen such a rise in the popularity of betting on things like the coin toss in the Super Bowl. We see odds here posted on the coin toss. Now, when I first got into betting, it was very rare. It was more rare, I think, to find less juice like this on the coin toss. You would still see like -105s, -110s. Here we see it posted at -104 on each side. The Super Bowl coin toss odds posted, and Bryce at Bryce Lotto says betting on a coin toss at 49% with the dying rose emoji, essentially saying how stupid that would be to bet on it at 49%. Obviously, an incredibly popular market for people for the reasons I described. It's like why first basket bets are so popular. People want the bet to be over quickly and settle very simply. Mike, how do we feel about people still betting this? Like, you have to know this is a bad bet. Why do we see people still betting this in 2026?
People play roulette. People play tons of card games at the casino that are purely chance games. I don't understand why this is any different. To me, it seems like a boring bet, but I also don't like roulette. So, I like a game where even if I don't have input, I can feel like, I'm making a difference versus the market. And maybe in the Super Bowl, it's hyper efficient. I don't have any kind of edge versus market, but I at least like betting my opinion and kind of having somewhat of a, think of that I'm doing something different as opposed to pure chance. But this is one of those where they're charging this kind of vig on everything, and people just don't seem to notice for some reason when it's a regular team. And now they do it for a coin toss and everybody loses their mind. So I don't know. People like games of chance. And if you're doing this or if you're betting actual sporting event, it's still kind of the same process. So I get why people do it. It's not for me.
Mike, definitely not a roulette player, but he definitely is a craps player. So maybe you'll find him there if you ever see him in a casino. Over to you, Knish, on the topic of the coin toss. How do you feel about it?
I think two things. One, you can, if you're really, there's a lot of places out there now that'll have the coin toss at like -101. Sometimes you even find a place doing it like promotional to give it to you at +100. I think the issue you have with a lot of people is like, if you're a FanDuel, a lot of people are one book people, which I know we always tell people to get as many up, but like it's just the way it is. So if you're a FanDuel guy and you got your balance there and you want to bet the coin toss or you want to throw it in your SGP, you're just going to flip it in. And as PB's saying, same thing where like if someone's put an SGP together, that's going to be 30-1. They don't give a shit that, if they put heads or tails in there, if it should have been, +100, it'd be, 31.29-1 instead of 30, So I just think it's one of those, the vast majority of people that are betting it really, there's no edge. Sharps aren't caring about this. So it's like people are just throwing it up. And so I'm with you. I thought you did a nice job with the lead in where people just want to bet the coin toss and have it in there. And so, hey, I'm not going to kill anybody for it.
It's just like it's very hard to explain like the quantifying like the odds and the edge and maybe lack of an edge on certain bets. But I think for the coin toss, I think why people call it out is because it's such an easy way to explain. This is literally a 50-50 event, and you are betting on it at worse than 50% odds. You are guaranteed to lose on this in the long run. It might work out for you this time, but in the long run, again, guaranteed to lose at that sort of price. China, what are your thoughts on it?
I'm a heads guy. I bet the coin toss every year. My buddy is tails never fails, and we just bet each other vig free every year for a couple $100. So I don't know. I think
vig free.
I think all these books probably should be offering, like, just even money on the coin toss just as a promotion, just to throw it in there. I mean, there's a million other bets that are going to...
Yeah.
go ahead.
Or like throw it, they're just a -101 or -102. Again, we're talking pennies here, but like -104 seems a little, a little, maybe you didn't have to go there. But yeah, as China said, I think just people are just going to throw this in. I don't think people are lining up out there to go like, I want to do 10K on the coin toss. It's, I want the coin toss with, Drake May anytime touchdown and Patriots to win and, 8 other things that hopefully will lose when the Seahawks, win by 30.
That is good, though. On the topic of promotional stuff, I've seen books in the past offer maybe one side at like plus 100. What I do find interesting is that typically every year, one of the most bet things in the Super Bowl is tails rather than heads. Like it's always tails seems to be the more popular choice for people to bet for whatever reason. Maybe it's just because of the saying of tails never fails. But I do wonder why we don't see more books run promotions like this. They can give you neutral EV, and if you win the bet, you're more likely to continue spending on a really bad bet on the Super Bowl at much worse EV than a minus 104 coin toss, for example. And if you lose, I know this is very shady, but like, are you not more likely to chase the bet just from already betting? That's my theory. Mike, you wanted to add something there?
That's some diabolical stuff there, Jacob, for hoping
It is, but
chasing losses.
The amount of shit they do, like, you don't think this doesn't like seem like an easy way to make, oh, we're being good guys. You can bet the coin toss at even odds, and it makes people more incentivized to bet whether they win or lose. I would think, not that I've studied this or anything.
Yeah, I think that good for any books taking a principled stand against putting up the coin toss there. But if you are going to put it up, why not throw it up at 100? Just let the people bet it, and it doesn't actually do any consumer harm to charge minus 104, to be clear. We're talking about the person who drives a little bit extra in order to get gas at 3 cents cheaper. And it's like, what are we doing here? But it's a nice thing that you could throw your customers' way, and you could promote the hell out of it. And it's plus EV, or it's negative, it's neutral EV for you as a book. So yeah, I think it's probably a decent marketing opportunity for some of these places.
Yeah, I think we'll see at least somebody offer it. I've seen in the past books offer it on one side. You can get one side at the boosted odds at plus 100. Go, China.
I got something to add here. So the smartest thing any of these books could do is offer one side at like minus 110, offer even money at the other side, and all the donks on gambling Twitter are just going to bet the minus 110 side because they're going to say it's rigged. So I mean, that's
interesting as well. There's a lot you could do with this rather than just offer it at the simple minus 104. I'll bring up something that Rob always says, CEO of the Hammer, when it comes to the coin toss, is that as dumb as it seems to bet at 49%. For a 50% possibility of an outcome. Of all the things people bet, like, for there to be a safety, for there to be an octopus, this might be the highest EV they have on any wager on their ticket or all their tickets for the entire night, because they're only getting it at a very slight negative edge when a lot of the other things they could be betting are at a very large negative edge. You guys agree with that?
Yeah, but there's something to at least having the joy of coming up with a handicap. Like, that's why people like to sports bet, right? Is because they want to put their opinion to the test. You don't have an opinion if you're betting the coin toss. I get that they're not actually, it's all pure chance if we're being realistic with it, but let people have their fantasies of picking the game.
Some people consider coin toss to be their opinion. They think it's tails never fails, like China said. He always goes for heads. I will say, if you are at a Super Bowl watch party and you actually do want to bet on the coin toss, as China said, maybe there's a way you don't have to pay any vig in order to actually make that coin toss wager that you want to make. And I'd advise against betting the coin toss, but I was once a DJ who did bet the coin toss. So we've all been there in the past. Maybe we've all been there, but I would say I certainly have. We're going to keep it moving on the show in just a second here. Let's get a word in from our friends here at the main channel here of the Hammer Betting Network, the Hammer HQ, where we run the Hammer Daily Show. If you're a person who likes to fire on all kinds of sports every day, we have the perfect show for you. The Hammer Daily with Jason Cooper goes down Monday to Friday at noon Eastern time. We have sharp basketball bettors, Edgework overtime for hockey. Plus, we talk golf, tennis, and college sports too. It's the Hammer Daily with Jason Cooper on the Hammer HQ YouTube channel. The link is in the description to go to that channel. Get yourself subscribed on YouTube today. Next up, we are sticking with the Super Bowl. Shady Beef posted this. He's a person who likes to give out bets on gambling Twitter. We've clowned him in the past. We've supported some of his takes in the past, but here he has one on how to get the Seahawks at plus money for the Super Bowl. The Seahawks, obviously, the betting favorite right now. He says Ohio State money line, Duke money line, both in college basketball. Seahawks money line on a parlay, plus 101. Boom, you just got the Seahawks at plus money. Ohio State and Duke both won their respective games at minus 800 and minus 460, which gives now the Seahawks Granted, not quite at plus 101 here, more like minus 101 with the bet that he actually placed, but still, we'll say close. That's how you get the Seahawks at even money for the Super Bowl. So we've seen things like this not work out in the past, but how do we feel about this strategy, Knish?
Okay, I'm going to be one. It's funny because this, I think the offshore is using is like the modern version of 5 dimes, which used to let you parlay futures. And so the amount of like heavy chalk money lines I'd put into some futures to juice them up, like the amount, and I'm not saying these were like great, but it was like the thing that like no other books would let you do. In this instance, it's like a single game, you know what I'm saying? But are you never hear about, I got a buddy that like who I bet with that people would know on Twitter, CK, who would do these like crack like every week on this, but you never hear, he would never share, he'd always, send screenshots. Oh, I got this new, I got the Gonzaga to win the tournament now at 86-1 instead. But you never hear about the losers when people do this, where like all it takes is one, heavy juice soccer game to go the wrong way, and you're out of luck here. So, are you actually getting EV in this strategy? I would say no. In certain instances, though, I've employed the strategy in the past. We'll say that, but not for like a straight game money line like that. More to take a future that might be 30-1 or 40-1 and get it to try and get it to 100 or 200, that type of thing.
Okay, interesting. I'll go to Mike here next. What do you think about a strategy like this?
This is great until it isn't on all sorts. Kind of like, get the better price live. It's like all these things where you think, I'll just make the odds a little bit better by adding this in. And then it almost always blows up in your face. I've had a lot of times I will parlay stuff with large money favorites in order to kind of hide action. I hope that's a pretty common occurrence. So I don't think I'm giving anything away there. I hope not. But and when the like dummy leg loses, let me tell you, that is just it's so painful to watch, especially when your non-dummy leg wins and your dummy leg loses. It almost counts as 2 losses. So this is a great example until it isn't for Shady B. At least he did take the other 2 bets first. So if he loses, he can double down and lose twice as much.
That's true. What about you, China? How do you feel about this?
Yeah, it's good to use in certain scenarios, like Mike was saying. It was this is something we used a lot this year, betting props, where we got our hands tied and can't bet props in certain places. You throw in a minus 3,000 with the prop, and now maybe you can get 5 to 6 times as much on a ticket. Spread them all out. There you go. But I mean, at the end of the day, like Knish said, you never hear about the losers unless it's Fezzik posting Purdue money line for the tournament,
So I do agree. There are instances where this can work. I don't mean to be slanderous here. I don't think this is an example of Shady B, gaming the system a little bit. He is betting a Super Bowl money line after all. But if you are a really good sports bettor, you are a winning sports bettor, like China said, this could be a way you get more money down. As actually, Jeff Feinberg on the Monday show 2 weeks ago did this while we were live to help get himself a little bit more down on a golf outright that he wanted to make. But also, you can mask sometimes your good bet with a parlay like this, where maybe a trader isn't going to care as much about a parlay rather than you make, let's say, a player prop that moves a lot. Maybe that doesn't get picked up as easily when it's mixed with 2 other heavy favorites on player props, for example, for SGPs. So I don't think that's an example of this, but there are situations where you can employ this to your benefit.
That's right. You use it to hide the garbage play. So the garbage that you want to get in, that's the high ROI, they don't want the bet to come in. That's what you use to hide it. You don't use it to hide your Super Bowl bet or to give your Super Bowl bet better odds. You're just giving yourself more juice. So there's a difference between using it to hide stuff and using it to give yourself fake good odds.
Absolutely. That'll take us into the next topic. We're sticking with football, but we're now coming off of the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Not quite sports betting, but I think just a large enough topic as a whole that we need to cover this. Seth Wickersham, along with many other people, provided the reports that Bill Belichick is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. He did not get elected in. The 8-time champion failed to get 40 out of the 50 votes required for the induction. I just love this. Jimmy Johnson, Pro Football Hall of Fame head coach, quote tweeted this. He said, "I would bet that if the Hall of Fame votes were public, very few of the assholes that did not vote for Bill Belichick would come forward. Already some are lying about their vote." And the problem is he quote tweeted a video of Kymie Fairbairn hitting a field goal for the Texans against the Patriots. This is so funny. I don't know how is this video even in your timeline at all, like over a week later, to be able to quote tweet it. And you're so angry. You're so angry. He didn't know he was quote tweeting this. He did post a second quote tweet, which was under the correct tweet, where he was saying he wants the people to come forward who didn't vote for Belichick, because at the moment these votes are private. Because this mentions that some of the influence on Bill Belichick not being a first ballot Hall of Famer was his presence in Spygate and Deflategate, and this was somewhat of a punishment. Let's go to our Patriots fan here, China. I'm sure you're not pleased about this, but go through your emotions on it.
Well, it's just in general, like the Football Hall of Fame, it's weird, kind of like the other Hall of Fames. The voters, they have these sick agendas and they want to punish people. Like, I think I remember Terrell Owens didn't get in on the first ballot.
Yeah.
And he's arguably, a top 3 receiver of all time. It feels like they get a million guys in every year, but somehow, like, Mike Shanahan's not in the Hall of Fame. Reggie Wayne's not in the Hall of Fame. I could go on and on with these lists, but if anybody is a first ballot Hall of Famer, I mean, it's the guy that's coached in 20% of the Super Bowls, who's won more Super Bowls than anybody, and the guy who launched Tom Brady's career. I mean, Tom Brady could be stocking shelves if Belichick didn't elevate him from he was the 3rd guy on the depth chart, moved him up the depth chart, started him over a healthy Drew Bledsoe in the Super Bowl, and then, the rest is history. So at the end of the day, people want to point to the taping of teams' practices, which never happened, was never proven. The football inflation thing was debunked. And yes, they did record signals, but so did every other team in the league. They only got turned in because the guy on the other sideline, I think it was Eric Mangini, who used to coach with Belichick. So I don't know, pretty much it's just a punishment for dominating the league for 20 years and for kind of being smug with the media. But at the end of the day, I mean, of course he's going to get in, but not to get in on the first ballot's crazy. But I did see one point today from a guy who did have a vote, and his reasoning was there were guys that were going to fall off the ballot if they didn't get voted in this year. And that's like the only semi-logical reason somebody could actually give for not voting Belichick in.
Yeah, but that I can kind of understand. But at the same time, there are other people that you could be voting for, or not voting for, rather, in that instance. Like, this is a surefire, no doubt, first ballot Hall of Famer. Like, that this is probably a top 3 example of any coach who ever should have been first ballot Hall of Fame. Like, I don't know if there were odds up for this, but the odds must have been astronomical for Belichick to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Knish, we'll go over to you. Your thoughts on this as a non-Patriots fan.
I mean, listen, I'm not going to pretend I'm was ever big Patriots guy, but you respected like the greatness and what he did, and this is what happens when you don't have public votes. Like, when you don't have people don't in the MLB Hall of Fame. If you were going to not vote Bonds or one of those steroid guys out there, one, you had at least a little bit more of a rationale and a case, and two, the votes kind of released and public. Like, when you let people hide under the cloud of anonymity, this is what happens. I guarantee if the votes were public, this does not happen. because if you came out and you're like, now you're getting shamed and trolled, and like you're getting China and all his boys showing up at your lunch, and putting you into the room, the wall in the bathroom, and saying, why didn't you vote for Belichick? Then you wouldn't be this wouldn't happen, and it shouldn't happen. So I agree. I hate the lack of accountability, and Bill Polian, absolute snake. I can't remember who I voted for. Get out of here, you fucking schmuck. You cost Peyton Manning most of his career because you're such an idiot. You had some of the worst takes ever on Lamar Jackson and stuff. And now you're like, wanting to play, like the puppet master behind the scenes to not get Belichick on first ballot. So this is disgraceful.
Let's go over to you, Mike. You can either like give your take on this, or maybe we can kind of like extend the conversation a bit further into, do you think these votes should be made public?
I do kind of worry that when you make the votes public, there becomes an automatic peer pressure for everybody to get in. There is this guy didn't vote for who blank, and you get people mad. You get way more groupthink. So in general, I don't know if I'm for the committee kind of publicly displaying their votes. What I will say is, if you have a committee who doesn't put Bill Belichick in, then you need to get rid of the committee. Is what you need to do. Is you need to get new members. It doesn't matter if those votes are public. I don't want those people. Either these people are incapable of making the vote themselves, and then we're just going to have a kind of groupthink pressure to make them correct, when the real answer is get people who can actually do the job and do it competently. So I think like a good example is the NBA Hall of Fame, or it's the Basketball Hall of Fame, has Mo Cheeks in it. There's no world, all respect to Mo Cheeks, where he should be a Hall of Famer in basketball, but they've now allowed basically everybody in, so the bar gets lowered. I'm okay with having a high bar to get in, but like this is obviously the greatest coach of all time. If there's one person who needs to be in, it's him. Do we think, here's a theory that, China said that somebody may have not included him because they needed to get somebody else on. Do we think there was a couple people who all were like, well, of course, fucking Belichick's going to get in? Like, they thought that they could not use their vote on Belichick because he was already clinched a spot, and then they tried to get other people in.
Every year, there's going to be somebody who's about to lose their eligibility. Like, you're just delaying this problem another year if you don't solve it now.
Could he have been such a slam dunk that they thought, I get X votes, he's going to get in anyways. Let me just go ahead and not waste my vote, in another sense of order.
No, because I don't think they do it like like baseball. I think you mail your ballot in. Football, I think they all congregate and go into one meeting room and they discuss it.
Then that's insane. Okay, now that I'm learning that, everybody on the committee gone. Everybody, not one person.
I'm like pretty sure that's how they do it. They go into a room and they all talk it out. And from the reports, I think Bill Polian was very vocal about not getting him in.
That's what it says here. I also didn't realize they all sit in a room together. It just gives me like this 12 Angry Men vibe where Polian can kind of show up. Right. 49 people are like, okay, we're obviously voting for Bill, but he's like, well, hang on. Just let me try and convince you guys about this right now. And I don't know, Mike, you might be right. That might have been a factor where people thought like maybe like, he should get enough votes anyways. If he doesn't this, he'll get another year. But I don't know. Feels
that
like
was only if it was anonymous, and the thought there would have to be everybody else is voting him in. Like, I don't need to. Everybody else will get. If they're in a room and they're deciding this, I got to say, then Bill Polian, we do need to employ him in some kind of sales role. If you can sell Bill Belichick not getting in, like, that's a man who can sell fucking snow to an Eskimo.
Obviously, like, we do understand the prestige of getting it. Like, Bill Belichick's gonna get in, but like, we do understand the prestige of getting in first ballot. Like, that's just like. It's like a unanimous MVP type of thing. Like, it's a little bit more special when you accomplish the feat in such a convincing manner that, it does matter here. I kind of like this. Just reminds me of like the way UFC treats like refs. If there is a bout that it's very clearly this person won, and one of the judges says the other person won, they will just remove him from being able to judge any fight for the rest of the night, pretty much. So I think we need to have that kind of cutthroat stuff here. If you didn't vote Bill Belichick, like, you probably shouldn't be voting going forward. That's how I feel about it. So we can move forward here. I do want to highlight, though, I don't know if Belichick was listed here previously, but Kalshi does now have a market up where you can predict who is going to be nominated for the 2026 Pro Football Hall of Fame class. You have people like Drew Brees at 99%. I have to feel like Belichick would have probably been 99%. People like Luke Kuechly at 74%, Larry Fitzgerald at 92%, and a whole host of other names you can take a stab at here. Again, you can do so by going to Kalshi. There's so many other great markets available, especially for the Super Bowl. You can sign up today with the QR code that is on screen, or by going to the link in the description if you're listening in audio form. You can do it in video form as well if you think that's a little bit easier. You can get signed up to Kalshi today, get involved with a great product, and support the show at the exact same time. But next up on the show, we're going to go to a couple comments that I wanted to highlight from the previous week's show. As always, comment something down below if you haven't taken anything that we speak about. Chum43 said, as a lover and follower of chess, the poker/math conversation reminds me of what people said about computers solving chess with math optimization back in the day. Some might still argue me on this, but generally in the chess world, it has only made things more interesting and popular. Sometimes you need to add some nuance and complications and new angles to keep a game interesting. AI, quote-unquote, solving chess mathematically certainly hasn't homogenized the game nor ruined the competitive nature and fun of the game, but it has increased its popularity and led to a lot of interesting innovation. There was a time when checkers was more popular than chess. Now there is no comparison. So I don't know.
Was there really a time when checkers was more popular than chess?
I don't know. That one I read. I don't know.
I mean,
chess.
I like checkers more, but it's just because I'm too stupid to play chess. So
For 6-year-olds, maybe? Like what?
Yeah, maybe in third grade.
Also, AI didn't solve chess. Chess was solved by computers way before AI.
yeah.
Likely, I just quick Google. Checkers likely held higher popularity than chess among the general public at various points due to its simpler rules, especially in the 1800s. I don't know. Anyways, on the point of it, the comment is on the math side of it. We spoke about last week how we don't believe that bringing math more to the forefront of poker play is going to allow it to become more popular. Whereas Chum here says that actually did help chess become more popular. I can understand the theory. I guess we'll get your take on it, Mike. I'll say mine first of all. I feel like in a non-disrespectful way, the people that are playing chess are different than the people that are playing poker. What do you think?
Yeah, amen to that.
Not trying to be disrespectful. I think, factually speaking, that's how I feel. Go ahead, Mike.
Once math started to get involved in chess, then we started having, Bobby Fischer go crazy and going on crazy rants and disappearing. I don't know. Is what the world we want poker to become like is chess? Is that like what we're shooting for? As the poker world? I don't think so. So I again disagree. I think that people want to play poker for way different reasons than worrying about the math. The people who play chess, let them play chess.
The poker boom was driven solely by financial opportunity, where there isn't really that opportunity in chess. I mean, even if you make it to okay, but you got to be in the. I think we're talking
but up until was it 2003? You would have said about poker as well. It's not like anybody can just roll in and win.
But you can play home games.
Poker.
Nobody's just playing for $10 a game of chess, unless you're in the.
I don't know. Go through some parks in New York. You probably will find games you can play for money for chess.
But I think we're talking significant orders of magnitude. I think your typical chess player does not play chess for financial gain.
For the love of the game.
Yes.
Poker, people are playing for the incentive.
Yes. Okay. So I think that you got as you said, very different crowds of people that are into these two things.
Okay. How about you, China? What do you think?
Yeah, poker was driven, the poker boom was driven by the characters and the unpredictability of the play. If anything, the math and the solvers and the AI that has come into poker has made it very, very boring, in my opinion.
Agreed.
So,
Agreed.
You look at chess, I would guess it would be the same way, unless you're one of these top, 50 nerds that are playing for these championships every year. But I think they're all anti that stuff too, because people are starting to bring devices into the games that buzz and cheat as they're playing. So I don't know, any type of math that is brought into any game, even sports betting, it just makes it worse for the average person.
The only thing I would counter there is, and somebody, it's going to have to be PB to check me on this, because I think in poker, like there's only a solver is much easier to make the game significantly less variant, whereas in chess, your amount of combinations and variance is so significantly higher that I don't think that would impact the quality of play or the content, if that's what I'm saying. Like if you're watching a chess match versus I'm with you, China, where I think the solver method, you have so many people playing the same way in poker now, it becomes much more boring. Whereas I don't know if that's as much of an issue in chess, if that theory makes sense. And maybe it doesn't.
I don't know chess.
I don't know. I don't know how to play poker. Or I do know how to play poker, but I'd never played poker seriously, and I don't know how to play chess really. So, other than
I would guess it's just much harder, because even if you study all that stuff that the computers and the solvers are doing, to actually have the brain to implement all of those moves. I mean, like we said, computers solved chess like 30 years ago. I don't know how, maybe even longer, maybe 50 years ago. I'm not sure. But to bring that in and actually implement a lot of those strategies is probably extremely difficult, I would guess, as well.
Is chess considered like a solved game? Like tic-tac-toe is a solved game. If you play it correctly, you cannot possibly lose. I guess it's not quite. I don't know. Could it be?
Yeah. So chess is deterministic in that you could plot all the reason it was solved way before AI is you can just map out every single combination.
Yeah, that's play on a obviously much higher skill than tic-tac-toe. But
no, I know, but it's deterministic in the same way that tic-tac-toe is. And poker is not deterministic in that way, because you don't know what your counterparty can do, and there's obviously different levels of raising and things like that. Similar,
and there's the level of unknown, and you could predict what they have, but
but you can't. You can never. They can. There's basically unlimited combinations of people folding, different people doing different things, and so it's similar to, if anybody wants to watch a good doc, AlphaGo. It's when they trained the first AI to play Go. And they go into why it's so much harder to play that versus chess, and how chess is basically solvable, like you said.
All right. Interesting conversation there. Hey, any chess experts watching, please enlighten us as to further information on this topic. I do find it interesting. Second comment I'm going to feature here comes from Aka Cam 5716. Long comment, but just to summarize here, they're a beginning bettor who started betting a year ago, transitioned from $5 shit parlays to arbing and promo scumming, which is a lot easier in Ontario, in Canada, because there are so many competing sportsbooks who offer a lot of great promotions. Has gone through accounts betting in this way, has talked about top-down betting stuff, and has good access to accounts here, but now wants to find the new level where they don't want to get limited so quickly with the top-down approach, the arbing approach, etc. So we'll start, let's say, with China here. What is the next step for the bettor that's kind of hit the ceiling with arbing and top-down betting, etc.?
Find more accounts and link up with people that can win. It's that simple.
Okay.
You just got to keep finding more accounts. If you're arbing, your accounts are going to get cut off. When your accounts get cut off, then what do? You just got to find more accounts, find more outs, and find people that can win actually with math, that are using math to exploit the book's holes.
So what would that sort of partnership, like what could you offer there if you were a top-down bettor and something like that? Just access to accounts?
What, if I was the top-down bettor?
Yeah.
You're saying, if I was the top-down bettor, I would get accounts and I'd bring them over. I'd bring them to one of these two guys right here, and I'd just say, hey, you want to fry these accounts for me, and work out some kind of a deal.
Okay. How about you, Knish? What advice would you give in this scenario?
This is tough, right? Because I will say, great job to ACAM here in terms of you figured it out, right? You figured out how to turn from just doing stupid parlays into like the promoing and then top down. Like you've kind of made the natural transition from Square to like Rec Plus and made yourself some money doing that. The next step is probably what I would say is the hardest step in terms of, and I've gone through this too, where a lot of accounts churn in that, and the ability, like, how can I say this? How I'm still going now is some of the relationships and deals and things I've made over the years through networking and that that allows me to still, and also, to find a bunch of people that win in different locations. When you say, maybe try and become a mover for more experienced US bettor, the problems I would have, it would be, are you tied to then that one bettor and his success? How do you know he's going to be successful? Are you going to be able to keep getting fills from him? There's just a lot of logistics there that might be difficult. I would tend to agree with China that kind of accounts as like the end all. But at some point you reach the threshold. I call it the circle of trust, where you've got your own, you've got then your family, your circle widens a little bit, your close friends, all people who won't steal your money from you or screw you over, or you have good relationships with. Once you're outside of the circle of trust, and then it's like friends of a friends or people you've met through the internet, that's when the risk goes up. And you just want to make sure as you expand that web that you're not putting yourself in an unadvantageous position where you could take, big laydowns, or let's say you've made 50,000 from doing this so far. You don't want to, extend yourself to that point outside of the circle of trust and be at risk of like, oh, now I've lost everything because I trusted some people I shouldn't have, or some accounts got shut down, that type of thing. That'd probably be the best advice I could give you that's not super in the weeds.
Okay. Let's go over to you, Mike. What would be your advice to this person?
Yeah, so it sounds like you have accounts. The total number of the money that you make is going to be the number of accounts you have and the number and how much you get from each account. You're trying to increase how much you get from an account. You can either partner with someone to do it, or you can, try to do it yourself. Either way is going to take some kind of, work on your end. And you just got to have to ask, what do you provide as value? It sounds like right now you have accounts, so you got to find either someone to provide the other end of the value equation, or work on it yourself.
So the advice I've gotten previously, like Knish said, this is like the largest jump you're going to make. The advice I've gotten previously is that there is a bit of a misunderstanding of the bar for what you need to provide in a partnership like this. If you're providing accounts, for example, and if you communicate efficiently, you pay on time, and you provide like no problem to the other party, you are well above like the average person involved in this space. And that's based on the advice I've gotten from people. I'm sure the other three people here can provide more context or something like that, but the barrier of entry seems to be, especially if you have access to accounts, lower than what it seems to be to take that next step. China, did you want to add something?
No, I'm good. I think these guys hit it pretty right. I mean, that's the one thing I think Knish said was, it's just when you get past that circle of trust, you just gotta tiptoe and make sure you dot all your I's and cross all your T's, or you're in for a rude awakening if you're not cognizant of who you're dealing with and what they're up to.
And you're probably, listen, like everybody's going to get burned at some point, you know what I'm saying? So, but you got to make sure that you're not like, because I can tell by the end there, it's like, oh, now I'm having trouble getting down, or I'm not, like I'm kind of. The other thing could be, I don't find the next thing. You know what I'm saying? Maybe sports betting's not the, the next thing. Find kind of the next, outside of this web to kind of get into if you've kind of maximized what you have. But as you said, the wider the net gets, the more risk you're going to have to be willing to take. Where now, if I'm if you're a top down guy, or your promo, or your arbing promos, or your arbing and just in general, the risk is almost zero. You're going to win. The next levels have much more risk, where accounts from people I don't know that well, filling bets from people that may or may not win. And so you just got to be in the right position to take that risk, and you cannot have the same mindset when you're arbing and doing promos risk-wise as when you start doing some of this next level stuff, because the stuff you were doing is guaranteed to win, and the stuff you'd be doing now no longer has that guarantee. And like things, if you're not, risk adjusted, it can go south quickly. I've seen it go south on some people, maybe even some people that have been on Circles Off before that, some interviews in the past. So
you'll never be able to find them. So
oh yeah, right. That may or may not be up anymore.
Don't worry about it. You won't be able to watch that one. So,
but that's a great
But you're right. You're right though. You can have a glowing reputation enough that it is convincing that other people want to provide you the platform to extend that reputation even further, and then it could all turn on you very quickly, and it could all spiral. Maybe that's the lesson to get out of it. So again, the risks involved with it, but hopefully some good advice to you watching. Anybody maybe could take that advice that is
build
watching
slow
today.
Build slow. That's it.
Yeah.
There you go. We're going to move on with the show. If you're enjoying so far, got some value maybe out of that conversation or any other conversation we've had so far, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Keep up to date with our content. And if you're listening audio form, maybe follow us and rate and review 5 stars. Here's the next topic on the show. Vice, the popular media network, had video or documentary, short documentary that came out about sports betting, and some of the friends of the show featured Chris Dierkes at FlipNoLight on Twitter, who used to be one of the panelists here on a weekly basis, as well as Isaac Rose-Berman, who you sometimes see featured as the 4th chair for this show on Friday. A lot of people had some memes about it. El Mastro 99 Louis on Twitter. He posted this video of Flup saying the sports books have it wrong, and it's when his screen lights up and he says as his odd screen flashes pretty colors as Flup rushes to go bet something. We had Captain Jack, who commented on the video. It says, as always, YouTube comments make Twitter look like a Mensa meeting. Here's some from the last 24 hours of the trailer for the new Vice documentary that features Flup, Rufus, and Isaac. I'll read the comments here. They'll all be broke. It's just a matter of time. My suggestion, learn how to trade. Thousands of people are making a ton of money. Gamblers always lose in the end. Figure out price action, anything, and look into trend following. You're welcome.
What do you mean?
So literally describing how to be a profitable sports bettor for some.
It's the same thing.
Next one. All of these guys are actors. This is all fake.
Agreed.
And another one here. You have to realize the whole betting market would fall apart if people actually won more than they lost. House always wins, or there is no house. So you are presented with quote-unquote unicorns that seemingly win against the odds. Don't trust any of it until you see the receipts either. I've seen some of the receipts. I can assure you these guys are not actors, and they're not and you can't trust the individuals within this show, but I did find that quite funny. Fozen posted this one of Flup. Says, always know your counterparty. I prefer to bet against people like Flup, who in his own words says, I can't even count, because Flup was saying there's 30, 40 college basketball games. I can't even count. I got to say, Fozen, to be the level of troll that you are and not be able to successfully get a properly cropped video clip of this YouTube video, it does kind of sour me on the reputation a little bit, because this is like Jimmy Johnson type of stuff right here.
Yeah.
And finally, Mike Vivian. One of the quotes from the trailer, Isaac Rose-Berman, unlike Chris, he specializes in betting. That was a really good one as well. In more seriousness, though, I'll start with you, Mike, on this. Did you check out the video? If so, what are your thoughts?
I want to compliment whoever did the sound mixing on that video. It was really great job there. That I could kind of hear the narrator speak sometimes when he was talking about it, but I watched the first 8-minute preview. I think that there's a longer version coming out later. I thought it looked relatively decent. Covered, if I was a normie who didn't know anything about sports betting, thought it did a pretty good job of highlighting some of the kind of situations they come in. I don't know. It seemed like a pretty well done documentary when usually these things are pretty, dog shit. So thought they did a decent job.
Knish, something to add?
It's amazing that Isaac was basically in terms of being a young media whore, like the Rufus, and now they're doing a documentary together where it's like, everybody, in the sharp industry move in the shadows, keep a low profile. And Rufus, back in the day in the Las Vegas Journal was the first one that was like, oh yeah, I'll do you. And then Isaac, is like go following his footsteps, like, oh, I'm going to go on Fox and Friends and talk about responsible gaming. Meanwhile, I'm on Telegram, asking Knish to have me put down a 30-leg round robin on
climbing a tree out of state to get on a random person's Wi-Fi to get a betting that he couldn't get.
But you got to
state.
responsibly game. So just amazing that him and Rufus are now doing a documentary together. I feel like everything has come full circle.
Isaac is like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with the responsible gaming stuff, I swear.
No, seriously. Right. Like if you actually spent a day like betting with him, you'd be like, this guy's big. Like, what do you the responsible gaming? Like,
he told me one time 160. He goes, if it's 160 to 1 and I could kind of see it happening, there's literally no way it can be a bad bet.
China, over to you. Any thoughts from yourself?
Yeah, like when this got linked in our chat, like I was just expecting like, Fezzik, Vegas Dave, something like that. It feels like every time there's one of these documentaries, it's like just out of this world and like stuff that just doesn't happen. The one with like what was it, with crack on it? The one, that had Vegas Dave. But anyhow, it was a pleasant surprise. You got 3 solid pros, all who win and who all can speak, pretty eloquently on how things actually work in this industry.
Can speak elegantly. Flup is going to stutter halfway through. They can edit around the stutter. Never mind. Good point, China.
Yeah, they can provide the media magic, except for maybe some of the audio, in this, as we discussed already. A bit rough on occasion. We don't do it like that here most of the time on Circle Back, but we'll keep the show moving here. Before we do, a word about the Discord we have at the Hammer Betting Network. If you're not in the Discord yet, you are missing out. We have over 1,700 members, and it's absolutely cooking. It's a place to chat during games, and our creators are sharing banger bets. And you know what? So are our Hammer audience. We're going to give them a little bit of credit as well. Join us at discord.gg/hammer to find out what you've been missing out on. Discord.gg/hammer, but I'll make it easy for you. The link is in the description to join our Discord today. Couple more topics on the show here. First of those two comes from Grayson Roberts at Trident_DFS. Quote, sports betting isn't fun anymore. End quote. Meanwhile, you're just a loser who doesn't know the math behind how to win. Very big statement about sports betting. China, you're interested in this topic. What did you want to say about it?
I mean, I think it's the complete opposite. Sports betting was more fun when I didn't know the math behind
100%.
The more you learn the math, the more work it becomes, and it just becomes boring, and it becomes a task day after day after day. I mean, it's fun to uncover things with the math here and there, but for the most part, it's a grind game. So that's what I got on this topic.
Knish, how about you?
The most fun I ever had betting in my life was when, when I was pretty much flat broke, and you're going, it's like walking in the casino with your boys when you're 21 and maybe your checking's got 300 in it and you're walking in the casino with 280, just, enough to get, maybe a $5 pizza afterward. That was when, when the sweat and everything meant so much. Nowadays, I got to a point, the famous story I always tell was I was watching a college basketball game on ESPN Plus. It was Norfolk State or something. And I was getting so triggered watching this stupid game because I was like, I'm never fucking watching another college basketball game again. And so the more it becomes a business, the less fun, real fun you're going to have. And certain, there's also a certain, not to sound like a douche, but when you hit a certain level, all of a sudden then like when you're walking in the casino, when you only got a few $100 to your name, that you're literally like putting like 50%, 80% of your net worth on the line. When you're, now the bets I'm making are such like a small denominator of like your overall net that it's like, it's not getting, it doesn't even get you out of bed or like even like a heart flutter or any of that. So I just totally disagree with that. I mean, maybe at first when you realize kind of how to win, you'd be like, oh, now I'm going to get it. But the longer it goes on, the less like, yeah, it doesn't have the same, it can't, right? Like it can't, like when your account is on the line and you're that young, it's never going to mean as much to you as it would now.
The feeling of there's no way X team is going to beat Y team and betting on Y team and having your opinion reaffirmed, that there's not quite many rushes as good as that. I think adrenaline shots like that. So I can attest to that part of it. Mike, do you want to add something to this?
This guy doesn't give a shit about any of like, this is what makes it fun. Math, what makes it. This guy just wants to show I'm smart. I understand math. You dummies don't. That's why you need to buy my dub club, I'm guessing. This is a classic, like, it's math is what makes, like, you're only saying that to try to impute to people that you are smart and that you understand the math. I will say, like, there are times that you find an edge and you are like exploring it and you're like, oh, this is really exciting. But like, that has nothing to do when you're actually watching the games, knowing the math isn't any different. You still go on a ton of fucking losing streaks when you know the math. It doesn't change that kind of like your day-to-day variance.
The favorite bets that I make nowadays are the game, like I move for a bunch of people. So those aren't like my own opinions. The favorite bets that I make are the games where like it could be a college football Saturday or an NFL Sunday morning. And I'm just going to, you know what? I think the Dolphins are live today. And I'm going to throw, and I didn't ask anybody about that. And I didn't say anything. So I'm going to throw a nickel or a dime on the Dolphins or something money line. And that was Joey K's opinion and Joey K's brain that probably was wrong, but boom, then it's like, as you're saying, Jacob, after that, if the Dolphins win, you're like, yeah, baby, I still got it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm feeling good. You're walking around, hey, with your shoulders popping, head held high. When you originated it, it feels a little different.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, the most fun that I had betting. I mean, it's the most fun and the most misery was when I would go out Friday night. I'd black out and just call in action point wagers for the absolute max this guy would take. I would stay up all day Saturday, watch the games, and then call the guy on Monday morning and say, what do you have for a figure for the week? And he'd say, like 25, and I wouldn't know if it was 2,500 or 25,000. Like that was fun. It was miserable sometimes, but that's when it was really live.
You should promote that. Like, this is so much fun, guys. You got to try it, man.
Hey, you got to start somewhere. You got to fall down before you stand up.
Sure, that's fair. As much as it was fun, betting opinion like that, it is, I think, even more fun when you're actually winning. And, when you really grind out and you when you really grind and originate an edge, that is pretty fulfilling and that is pretty fun. As much as it was fun to just, look at a box score for a minute and make a bet, that the making money aspect of it is far superior. And Mike, you are correct. There is a link in his bio to his website, which has multiple links to his dub club. You are correct with that assessment. Final topic on the show today comes from Dave Mason of Bet Online. Says, our first official bet to win the 2027 Super Bowl, $200 on the Chargers at 16-1. I got to ask Jeff if this was his. P.S. Before anyone whines, OMG, why would you tie up your money this early and give them an interest-free loan? Patriots were between 80-1 and 100-1 this time last year. So I consider Dave Mason and Bet Online, he is the king of these long-term bets. Like, the amount of wagers you can find on Bet Online that can tie up your money for years. Like, some stuff is like, will aliens visit Earth before 2028? Like, you can bet that you're probably gonna win, but you got to wait a long time in order to see those funds actually return back into your account. This is not a scenario where like you're probably going to win, but you are tying up that money for a very long time. Let's start with Mike on this one. How do you feel about these super long-term wagers? Because in the past, some people have thought, like, even if it's plus EV, it's almost minus EV to have the funds tied up for that long.
So to make it worth it, you essentially have to, incorporate some kind of time value of money factor into it, which would be the interest rate would be an easy example of it. If you can earn 4% in interest a year, it makes no sense to make a bet that's expected edge 4% because you could have made that. At the same time, a lot of these longer shot ones, I believe people probably underrate how good of an edge that you can find in these because they're so far away. It's mostly fish, and there's a lot of people who don't want to tie up the capital. When there's people who don't want to tie up the capital, you have probably a better opportunity because there's less sharps going at it. So, especially if you are a casual bettor, I think that these futures are a good opportunity to have a rooting interest for the entire year, not burn a ton of, juice or whatever, kind of cheering for each thing. So I'm actually probably more for this than a lot of people.
Okay, interesting take there. Knish, what do you think?
I'm okay with tying up the capital. And again, everybody's situation is different with that. I will say, and Jacob, number one, I love Dave. Bet Online, been good to me over the years, all that. In terms of their strategy, and this will be a little behind the curtain, they do put a lot of stuff out there at what I'll call higher hold. So they're very good with like opening up long-term futures way out. But if you compare the pricing usually to some different places, whether it be prediction market like Kalshi ones they put up, or whether it be some other books in that, they tend to put a pretty high hold in these futures, especially like Super Bowl and that. And maybe, and you can say, hey, if you're going to be first to market, you deserve that. But I think in a lot of cases, like people might see the team that they want to bet, and some like this is really in the weeds, but some other books like to start will open the Super Bowl and then slowly as the season gets closer, decrease the hold percentage out of the pool. So you don't want to get beat early, but you might be getting a better price closer to the season or once more options are up. So there might be the occasional like, oh, this number's way off. I just don't think Super Bowl is usually that type of bet.
Okay. What's that little snowman character you've got with you now?
A little bit. Oh, yeah. I was going to say a little, some guy here at Joey Corporate made like his own fidget things out of 3D printer and brought them out and handed them out. So, yeah, I got, a little frosty here.
What do you got there, China?
I got a wizard. He's been with me. He's been with me for the past 16 years. He sits here. He's my companion.
I can't say I have any companions on my desk. Mike, how about you?
No, I'm an adult male, so I don't keep around.
I've got a lot of shit behind me, but nothing on my desk.
I got Jesus. Jesus is with me too. to stay with me. And I got some other crap over there too.
China, back on the rails here. How do you feel about tying up capital for an extensive period of time like this?
Hey, if you're a wreck, like Mike said, it's fun to sweat. It's fine. Not for me, though. I don't like to just lock up capital, not because I could invest it somewhere else or use it another way. For me, it's more of just mental torture, knowing that I'm going to be sweating these bets and then remembering where the money is and in what accounts they're in. And it just sits there all year long, and it just gives you another thing to think about. Well, you have other tasks going on, and, if you're very busy with whatever you're doing, whether it's betting or anything in life, I don't know, I just don't like to put it's just one thing that my brain does not want to follow.
To China's point there, I have put money in things that I knew were, good bets. And then afterwards, I needed to move money around somewhere. And I was like, God, it's just a pain in the ass that this is sitting in there. And sometimes it can become a hassle. I would say if you're going to do it in spots where you know that you're going to make a sizable position. Don't make it thing where you're like, hey, it's slightly plus EV, a small little bet that doesn't mean anything to you, because then it becomes just a pain to have there.
Yeah, I've always kind of felt like I'd rather I'd rather be able to use that money to bet every day leading up until that, maybe rather than having that sitting as a future. But also, I would seriously hate to turn down a plus EV position, even if it is a year away. So that's where I always kind of fail. In my head, I'm like, don't do this. Use that to continue betting, and then I'm not going to turn down this. So make that plus EV position worthwhile if you're going to wait for it. I agree with Mike.
Yeah, and don't,
China?
Yeah, don't, and definitely do not do this with PPH accounts, because if you're a winning bettor, they're going to get cooked and they're just going to get fried. And 99 times out of 100, they're just going to void it, or they're going to free roll you. I had Biden to beat Trump in the election that Biden beat Trump in
2020.
And it probably costed me like 20,000 in futures and PPH accounts, because I didn't realize it was going to take that long to settle. But by the time the 4 weeks went by, all the bowl games, we cooked the bowl games, and then all my accounts were cooked. All the money got stolen, and it was just, fuck you, China. You ain't getting shit. So,
that's a very good point. Very good point, actually, to end off.
China could have had the pending balance if Mike Pence would have done the right thing.
All right, that'll do it for us today on Circle Back. If you did enjoy, please make sure to hit the like button. Also, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Keep up to date with all the content we have on the Circle Slap channel. If you're just in a podcast platform, rate and review 5 stars. Follow us over there as well. Comment something down below to give us something to think about. Maybe you have a take, maybe you have an opinion. Put it in the comment down below. We always read all the comments. And as always, we will see you again next time.